They certainly do, particularly in the second half of matches, those fade-outs, Gal, getting the better of them, becoming habitual as well. It's a big test for Ricky.
Yeah, it's starting to get in their head now. That's the thing, 5 weeks in a row. You're up at half-time, all of a sudden the team scores a try against you in the second half and it just starts ringing in your own head. It's going to happen again, it's going to happen again. It's happened 5 weeks in a row to them, so it's not good if you're a Raiders fan. But I think a lot of it comes down to individuals. A lot of their individuals just aren't playing to the standard that they've played the past couple of years. Now, I don't know whether they've had enough, whether they just, they had 2 or 3 years of being really consistent and a really good football team, where they are just cooked. They've just had enough. Their roster just needs a refresh. But in saying that, they've got enough talent in this side to be doing better than what they're doing at the moment. And I suppose the positive thing, if you're a Canberra fan, is what Ricky just said. They're doing everything they possibly can do and the right things throughout the week to get the victory. And hopefully for them, they only need one win. And one win can turn the whole season around for them and give them a bit of confidence, because I still maintain they've got a lot of talent in that side.
They're 2 points off 7th and they play the Dogs. I'm not sure if that's the best team to play or the worst. If it doesn't work this week, there's no hiding.
No. Yep. Is there something that can break a rut like this, Brad? Is
winning.
Is it just winning? No conversations?
You just got to win.
But they don't seem that far away. Like the last 2 weeks, in the second half there, I know, against South, that's a game late in the game they could have won. Same against the Knights, and I sort of said it on the Sunday Footy show yesterday. They lose their 2 middles in the second half, and there's a few players that take some pretty poor options there in the late in the game that cough up possession and cough up any chance of winning the game. There's all this talk about player discontent and whether they're off Ricky. I don't actually. I think there's a couple of players that have been told some home truths. Then some have responded well. I think Josh Papali'i was one of them who responded really well in the first half there on Saturday. And then there's others that have been making some noise about not being particularly happy with the way Ricky's gone about things.
What's going on with Croker and Hodgson then? Do you know much about that?
I think he's just been honest with them and just said he wasn't happy with their game. And that's the truth of it.
So Hodgson's injured, isn't he?
But they're both injured, so it'll be interesting to see what happens around team selection tomorrow.
What was interesting to see, John Bateman speaking from back in the UK now, saying that when he was there, we'd have these conversations within the club. Then all of a sudden, journalists were ringing from outside, asking questions about those exact topics.
Yeah, that's not good.
That happened. Leagues have been going on for years, haven't they?
Mate, there's not many secrets in rugby league, seriously.
But the thing around...
You look at the good teams, they hide.
They do,
you're right.
The Roosters do. The Roosters manage to hide things.
Some teams sometimes rely on that sort of energy, that outside energy to put pressure on players. Well, the Roosters, the Storm, you don't really hear much what's going on there. Their coaches, I think, like it that way, where it's nice and tight.
John Bateman, that story that was in the Herald today, John Bateman was very angry last year when details around his negotiations with the club got out. And John Bateman and his management, Isaac Moses, was asking for a huge amount of money that Canberra just couldn't match. So when that sort of was leaked out, or it became obvious that they weren't going to match that, and he started copying it on social media, he was getting called greedy, and that's where I think a lot of that John Bateman said in the Herald today actually comes from. So people have to realise put some of this stuff into context.
We mentioned Josh Hodgson and Jared Croker, 2 of the veterans there. The Josh Papali'i situation's been an interesting one too. He was out for 1 week. There was talk he was going to be out the next, but then he was back.
And he called Ricky and said he wanted to play, and I thought he was fantastic in the first half there on Saturday.
It was heaps better. He was a lot better on the weekend, He was back to what we know he can do, taking the ball out the middle, and he made a break as well. So he was a lot better.
Can I ask, you both have been coached by Ricky at club level. Can I ask this? So he was at the Roosters for 5 years, Cronulla for 4. This is his 8th season at the Raiders. Now, he's not going to go anywhere. He's had the full support of the board. He's very close to Don Furner, the CEO. But can Ricky wear players thin? And that's like at some point when you're a coach who's intense as he is, do you think there's sometimes that's only a certain shelf life?
I think he has in the past. I think he'll be the first one to admit that he has in the past. But I think he's changed. Well, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that he's changed. I remember some of the stories he used to tell me about, even at the Roosters, what he used to do to certain players there. And I saw it firsthand at the Sharks. But I think he's changed a fair bit. Look, for me personally, I could play under Ricky Stuart for every year. I love being coached by a guy like that. But I imagine on some players he could wear thin. There were some guys who didn't think were tough enough.
Yeah.
He would line the whole team up. You would stand 10 metres away, and the whole team would run at you one at a time.
If you had
and you
thin
just had,
skin.
mate,
Is that right?
Oh, mate, he would try.
If you had thin skin,
Yeah.
I remember poor old Finch in that. He'd just go,
I can imagine
Finchy,
Finchy.
get with the forward, get over there, and he'd be just getting bashed. But when Stiggy was at the Roosters, we played in 3 grand finals. So, what he did do, he just pushed you. Sometimes, obviously people, if they haven't got thick skin, he pushes them a bit hard. And if things get a bit sensitive, I could imagine he's not one to give up either. He's not going to back down.
No,
so
and he puts his heart and soul into everything. I don't
He's
think.
not gonna back
I
down.
think he would have changed. I don't think he'd be like that anymore. And as I said, mate, I'd be coached by him every day of the week. Puts his heart and soul into it, which you've got
yeah,
to
he
appreciate
knows
as a
one way.
coach
I
and a
can't
player.
imagine sticking on it
But see,
another way
that's
than
what I mean.
being confrontational and, what
Well,
he
he's
thinks
upfront.
is
He's
what he
up-
thinks is honest. And
But as a player, Fred, don't you appreciate that?
Well, I did.
I did too. I always
Yeah.
appreciated knowing where you stood with him. I mean, the Tarpany situation, I imagine he would have addressed that straight away. I wrote in my column, it wouldn't surprise me when I took him out for breakfast and nutted out straight away. So I prefer that way rather than secrets in the background. I'd prefer someone to be upfront and honest with you.
the one thing I do know, when I watch them, the second half especially, there's a lot of players lying down around the play of the ball. So they want to put in effort into areas where they think they can be seen, but those areas are the ones where, your teammates need you to get up quick and get back on side. And I noticed a lot of them are lying down on the play of the ball. So, that's something that each individual has to address. Your coach can't do anything about that unless they drop you.
As you said, Brad, doggies this weekend.
Well, this
We
is
make
either the
all the
worst or the best because they got the Storm and the Roosters after that.
They'll be hoping for a bit of magic, come magic round.
That's a tough 3 weeks.